Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into the smoky haze of a town steeped in dread, a place where eyes are doors to damnation, and one woman's glance is enough to send men running, screaming that death itself just looked their way. Welcome to 1587, where accusations are more contagious than the plague. And if you so much as mutter the wrong word near a church door, you might find yourself on trial for witchcraft by morning. You're not wearing sandals, are you? Good, the mud here clings like regret, and the scent an awful stew of old sweat, wet wool, livestock, and too many secrets is thick enough to chew. You wrap your cloak tighter. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, tell me where you're watching from and what time it is right now. I want to know who's sharing this little nightmare with me. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You arrive in Dillingen and Ender Donau. Yes, it's a mouthful, even in 1587. It's a Bavarian town nestled along the Danube, the kind of place that should be charming, if not for the general sense that the earth itself is holding its breath. The cobblestones beneath your feet are cracked and uneven, not from age, but from the weight of wheels dragging plague carts. People look over their shoulders more than they look ahead. Children are quiet. That's your first real clue something's wrong. No shrieking, no games. Just little faces peeking through curtains that twitch closed the moment they see you. They're scared. Not of you, though. They're scared of her. Walpurga Hausmännin, midwife, widow, warden of the town's unwanted truths. And, according to whispers that twist through the rafters of every inn and every crumbling church step, a witch. You pass a man tightening an iron horseshoe over a stable door, not for luck, but for warding, a charm. You try not to stare to. Lawn at the dried bundle of herbs nailed beside it. Lavender, wormwood, maybe a scrap of bone tucked deep inside. You hope it's from a chicken. This is a world where reason rots quickly. Plague's already done its part. Epidemics tore through the Holy Roman Empire like wildfire in the decade before, and every third person here has buried a child or spouse. A few even buried both in the same pit. Grief curdles fast in a place like this. It becomes suspicion, then superstition, then fire. And it only takes one name to light the match. Walpurga single quotes s. No one says it outright, but they all know it. You hear it in the phrases they don't finish. That woman, and the one with the eye, and midwife from hell only whispered, of course, and always followed by a cross made hastily in the air. You follow. The scent of boiled cabbage and old fear to the town square. That's where the judge is arriving today. He's not dressed like a villain, unfortunately. No horned helmet or flaming sword, just gray robes, tight mouth, and a cold, administrative sort of gaze. You'd rather face a demon. Demons have a certain honesty. But this is bureaucracy with a crucifix. Witchfinders, you realize, don't come looking for the truth. They come looking for confirmation. And Walpurga, well, she's the perfect target. You see, she's useful. That's the problem. A good midwife is irreplaceable in a town like this. She knows the way a baby should turn, how to bleed a fever, how to sew a wound without tearing the skin. But usefulness is dangerous when you're a woman. It makes people whisper when you get too good at anything, especially when you're still alive. And your husband, in single quotes d. You stand outside the small stone house she used to call home. A neat garden curls around the side, though it's overgrown now, wild with fennel and belladonna and what looks like foxglove. You reach out and pluck a leaf, just one. It numbs your fingers almost immediately. You drop it. Inside that house, 100 babies took their first breath, and according to town gossip, so did a few demons. The story that started it all, well, there are several versions. Some say Walpurga killed her husband just by looking at him. He'd been strong that morning, even chopped wood. But by nightfall, he was moaning, clutching his belly, eyes rolling like marbles in his head. No fever, someone had said. No wound, just dead. Others insist she was caught whispering incantations to a cat. Yes, a cat, and not just any cat, a black one, of course. Which probably just means any cat that wandered by after dark. Historians still argue whether her husband's death was natural, maybe a stroke, maybe poison, but let's be real. Facts are slippery when fear gets loud. You walk past the inn, and that's when you heard her name. Soft, sibilant, spat. Like something sour she made and his child come out backwards. She cursed the baker's oven. She keeps leeches in her cellar. The last one might actually be true. Medieval medicine isn't exactly subtle, but here's a tidbit you didn't expect. Walpurga had been a respected figure once. Church records mention her assisting at baptisms. Local women sought her advice. She even sang at a festival once, though now people pretend they never heard her voice. That's how fast respect turns to revulsion when the air changes. You sit quietly at the edge of the square as the judge takes his seat and the accusations begin. Not formally yet, just murmurs, rumors, the kind that slither into official records like mold into bread. Someone swears Walpurga's eyes glowed red once when she was angry. Someone else says she never blinks. A farmer claims she knew his cow was sick before he told her, proof, apparently, of devilish insight, rather than common sense and a sharp nose. You get the feeling the town needs this. Not justice. Catharsis, a place to put their fear. A vessel to pour all the rotting sadness into. And Walpurga, she's solid. She's there. She won't run. She never has. A bell rings, officially. The inquiry begins tomorrow. But unofficially. Her fate's already been sealed for weeks. She just doesn't know it yet. You wake with the town already humming. Not enjoy this isn't that kind of place, no. The air buzzes like a fly inside a bottle. People gather early, pretending to shop for bread or haggle over fish, but their eyes are all tilted toward the courthouse steps. That's where she'll appear, Walpurga, escorted between two guards, hands bound, hair uncovered. And yes, her eyes are open, very much so. You catch a glimpse of them and well, you don't die on the spot, so that's one rumor debunked. But you understand where it comes from. There's something flinty about her gaze, not cruel, just sharp, like she's measuring you, filing your name away. Not the ideal trait when people already want to believe you've danced naked with the devil. She doesn't speak as the guards lead her into the hall, but her silence is louder than anyone else's voice. You follow the crowd inside. It smells of mildew and ink and cold sweat. The judge is already seated, flanked by a priest who looks like he sleeps with a bottle of holy water under his pillow. The charges start simple, consorting with spirits, spoiling crops with a glance, infanticide. That last one hits like a drop stone. Walpurga flinches just once. You wonder what she's thinking. Here's what the court claims. Walpurga smothered newborns in secret, especially ones who hadn't yet been baptized. She offered them, supposedly, to her demon lover, a creature named Federlin, who allegedly took the form of a dog, or sometimes a man with blackened lips. It varies. Even evil has branding issues. Historians still argue whether these specific claims were based on real missing infants or just projections of communal grief. After all, in towns like this, infant mortality was sky high. 1 in 3 didn't survive their first year. Mothers blamed themselves, fathers blamed God, communities, however, blamed midwives. And Walpurga had helped deliver dozens of babies. One woman stands to testify. Anna Krug. You hear the rustle of her shawl before you see her face, red and worn. She tells the court her baby was born healthy but died 6 nights later, coughing and cold. She remembers Walpurga giving her a tonic. She remembers the smell. Sweet, earthy. Maybe poisonous. Or maybe it was thyme, or valerian, or just old milk and too many tears. But Anna's voice shakes when she speaks. Not with grief, anger. And that anger works like kindling. Soon others stepped forward. Not with facts, exactly, but impressions. Walpurga was to come at my son's birth. She looked disappointed when the baby cried. She smiled the day I miscarried. None of it holds legal water, but that's never stopped a witch trial before. You watch Walpurga sit straighter with every word, as if denying herself the dignity of slouching is her only remaining power. And then comes the midwife's memory. Because they ask her, not kindly, not softly, but they ask, when did you first meet the devil? And she answers, quietly. She says it began in her 20s. Her husband had just died fever, they say, and she was left with 2 mouths to feed. She was lonely, broke, cold, and that's when the creature came to her in the barn. Of course, she phrases it all like a dream, like a story whispered from the edge of sleep. But the judges don't see poetry, they see evidence. She claims the creature smelled like iron and candle smoke, that it touched her forehead and left a mark she couldn't scrub away, that it whispered its name, Federlin. And here's where the quirky little detail sneaks in. Apparently, Federlin wasn't the dramatic demon you'd expect. He didn't breathe fire or wield pitchforks. He sang old tavern tunes, badly, off-key. According to Walpurga, he once hummed through his teeth while she mixed herbs and demanded she give him ale. You try not to smile. This is not a funny moment, but the mental image of a drunk ghost crooning lullabies while raiding your pantry is a little hard to resist. The court, of course, doesn't laugh. They ask more questions. About the ointment she allegedly used to fly through the air. About potions smeared on broom handles and chants muttered during storms. about Sabbaths held deep in the woods. Werewolves danced and women kissed snakes. And then, about the husband. Here we go. According to their theory, Walpurga killed him with a look because he threatened to expose her. Or maybe because he was the devil's competition. Again, branding problems. Federlin is not coming off as especially jealous or threatening so far. The cause of her husband's death officially unknown, but a neighbor swears he saw Walpurga drop something into his soup. Another says she cursed him during an argument. You half expect someone to claim she turned him into a toad. Historians debate whether Walpurga ever confessed to this part. Some court records say yes, others suggest it was added after the fact to make her more villainous. Because let's be honest, witch who consorts with a lazy demon doesn't have quite the same punch as husband-murdering sorceress with a fatal stare. At one point, she sighs, just once, and the room freezes like a deer caught in moonlight. You hear a whispered prayer from somewhere behind you. The judge crosses himself. Because when you're already believed to be a killer, even breathing wrong is a crime. They ask about her dreams, her thoughts, her sins, and eventually, they get what they want because they always do. She admits she's sinned. She's been angry. She's envied. She's spoken to things that weren't there. When alone, who hasn't? But when she says she's felt the devil's presence, her voice is tired, not guilty, just worn down. And you realize something chilling. This isn't a trial. It's a script. A well-worn play. The town needs Walpurga to be a villain, so she is. They need her to explain the plague, the dead children, the bad harvest, the lingering cold in their bones, and so she does. And once she becomes that vessel, there's no way back. You step outside after the day's testimony ends. The sky is gray, thick with clouds. It smells like snow. Someone spits as she's led back to her cell, not at her feet, at her. It lands on her shoulder. She doesn't flinch. You begin to wonder if Federlin was ever real, or if maybe, just maybe, she made him up to give herself someone to talk to. Someone who listened, even if he sang off-key. The cell smells of mold and urine. There's straw in the corners, but it's damp and crawling. You hesitate at the threshold, but you step in. You have to see her. Walpurga's sitting in the far corner, hunched but not collapsed, hands folded in her lap like she's waiting to be called in for a dental checkup. She looks older than she did yesterday. Or maybe the light's just crueler down here. There's a bucket, one spoon, one crust of bread left half-eaten, and a wheel, tucked just outside the bars. Not the kind for travel. This one's made for confession. They'll use it tomorrow. You lean against the cold wall, pretending to be invisible. And listen, they've already begun prepping her for the official confession. That's how this works. You don't need to be guilty, you just need to say the right things. Say them loudly. Say them in tears. Bonus points if you scream. The priest returns first. He asks if she's ready to speak again. She says nothing. Then the assistant enters. He's carrying a tool wrapped in cloth. Something wooden, long, and splintered. You glance away. There's a table across the room with a strange assortment of items: feathers, candles, ink, rope, a jug of water, a cloth soaked in something sour. These aren't for decoration. They're for pressure, persuasion, pain. This is the moment when most people stop believing in mercy. But Walpurga, she starts talking to the air. You watch her lips move. At first, you think she's praying, but then she laughs, softly. A single exhale through her nose. Not now, Federlin, she says. They'll think I'm mad. You almost laugh too, except your chest is tight, and your hands are clenched. And your throat is dry. They think she's unraveling. You're not so sure. By midday, the questioning begins again. But now it's in the chamber, a low vaulted room, with chains bolted into stone and a hook hanging from the ceiling. A brazier glows in the corner. The judge watches, the priest takes notes, and the assistant does the actual work. Let's be clear, torture wasn't always physical at first. They start with sleep deprivation, cold, hunger, isolation, a few hours alone in the dark, where the only sound is the drip of water and your own heartbeat rattling in your ears. Can turn the mind sideways, but if that doesn't work, they escalate. By day 3, Walpurga begins confessing in pieces. She says yes, she was baptized, but the devil unbaptized her. Is that even a thing? You wonder. Apparently yes, in 1587. He pressed two fingers to her head, whispered Latin in reverse, and left her mind clean of God. She says Federlin taught her how to spoil milk from a distance. That all she had to do was stare at a jug and think bitter thoughts. She says she turned bread moldy with her hands. That she caused a thunderstorm by crushing a spider between her fingers. At one point, she pauses and mutters, "They want fireworks, so I'll give them fireworks." You glance at the priest. He doesn't flinch. He's heard this before. Then she describes her familiars. Yes, plural. One was a weasel with gold eyes. It lived in her chimney and spoke only in riddles. Another a rooster that crowed backward at midnight. And a third, her favorite, a small shadow with no feet, which followed her indoors but vanished when she tried to touch it. Quirky detail, yes. Totally unverifiable. Also yes. But in these kinds of trials, the more bizarre the claim, the more people seem to believe it. Reality doesn't matter anymore. They want theater. Historians still argue whether any of these details came from Walpurga herself or were fed to her. During questioning, torture blurs memory. Repetition becomes belief. And the longer someone suffers, the more likely they are to give the audience what it wants. You want to stop listening, but you can't, because now, they're asking about the babies again. And this time, Walpurga breaks. Her voice cracks like dry wood. She says yes, she let some babies die, but only the ones who came out to blue, or to small, or to broken to live. She says she whispered prayers over them, that she kissed their foreheads, that she wept. The judge asks if she sacrificed them. She hesitates, and then says yes. The room is still, except for your heart, which you swear everyone can hear. Because you don't believe her anymore. Or maybe you never did. Not about this part. This isn't a confession. It's a surrender. She's decided to give them everything, even if it means rewriting her own memories. Even if it means becoming the monster they need. That night, the town celebrates. Quietly, subtly. But you see it in the extra wine passed around, the looser tongues at taverns. The smug silence of the baker who once claimed Walpurga cursed his sordo. A woman passes by humming a tune. A lullaby, maybe. You almost don't hear the lyrics. Burn her sins and salt her skin, lest the devil come again. You shiver. The next morning, you return to the courthouse and see Walpurga's legs bare, bruised, dangling from the wooden rack. She's being lowered slowly, breath shallow, cheek sunken. Her voice is hoarse but steady. Yes, she says. I flew over the church one night. Yes, I kissed a toad and it spoke to me. Yes, I saw the devil dance. And then, a pause. No, she adds softly. I never killed my husband, but I wanted to. That line sticks with you, because it's the only thing she says that feels entirely true. They don't bother to ask more after that. Her fate is already in motion, like a cart rolling downhill. No one's steering it anymore, not even the judge. You stay in the chamber after everyone leaves. The walls are damp, pitted with scratch marks, initials, prayers. One reads, if God sees me, let him speak. Another, no devil came, only men. You sit in the dark and listen, not for Federlin, not for the judge, but for silence, which in this place is the loudest thing of all. There's a smell you didn't expect. Not smoke, not yet, but tar. Thick, bitter, clinging to the air like guilt. They're preparing the stake. You passed a boys hauling bundles of wood through the square, giggling nervously like they're headed to a festival. One of them drops a log, and it lands with a thud that feels far too final. This is it, the part where the whispers become fire. Walpurga is no longer being called by name. She's the witch, just that. The market stalls are buzzing. One vendor has baked little devil buns, sugared lumps with 2 cloves stuck on top, supposedly resembling horns. Someone else sells bundles of rosemary to ward off her ghost. They're not subtle. They're not afraid anymore. Because fear only lasts until blame finds a shape. And now it has one. You edge toward the church, where Walpurga has been taken for final repentance. But you know this is more for the record than the soul. They've already declared her excommunicated. She won't be buried in consecrated ground. She won't be remembered in hymns. Inside, she kneels stiffly in a dim alcove. A priest is speaking Latin, more to himself than to her. You notice she's dressed differently today in white linen. Plain but clean. It's traditional. You dress witches in white before burning them, because irony, apparently, never goes out of style. Her hands are raw. Her face is bruised, but her expression, quiet. Not peaceful. Don't romanticize it, just still. You catch a fragment of her whisper. As the priest finishes, let the fire take the lies. She doesn't ask for forgiveness. She doesn't mention Federlin. She doesn't say goodbye. As she's led out of the church, a child no more than 5 throws a pebble. It doesn't hit her. It just rolls across the cobblestones, pathetic and small. Walpurga doesn't flinch. You wonder if she even sees it. They bring her to the square. You don't blink, because this is what the town has been building toward. Not just justice but spectacle. The pyre is enormous. Far more wood than necessary. The platform rises taller than a man. Around its base, someone's scattered dried flowers. An odd touch to delicate for what's coming. A priest reads the sentence in a firm, unwavering voice. Her crimes are listed again: consorting with the devil, casting spells, murdering infants, poisoning a husband. You've heard it all before, but here's the part that gets you. He ends with, and for these sins, she shall be purified by flame. Purified. As if this is a bath, a cleansing. As if fire isn't what it is, devouring, merciless, final. Walpurga climbs the ladder on her own, slowly, but without help. That's unusual. Most are dragged. She turns at the top and scans the crowd. You feel her gaze land on you. Just for a second. Your heart jolts, even though you know that this is just projection, imagination. The human needs matter in someone else's story. Still, you look away. The executioner steps forward. His face is hidden by a hood. He chains her. Gently, ankles, wrists. It's ceremonial now. She's not struggling. And then comes the moment no one talks about afterward. The silence. Before the flame. Before the scream. The crowd holds its breath. The birds have all flown. And then a torch touches the kindling. It takes only seconds. The smoke curls upward like a hand. Then fire. Then heat. You expect to scream. But Walpurga says one thing. Loud enough to carry. I am not what you made me. Then the fire swallows her. There's a pop, maybe her hair catching, maybe something else. And then crackling. Feet shift. A baby cries in the crowd. Someone murmurs a prayer. But most just watch. Because deep down, some part of them thinks they've done something noble. That's the scariest part. By sunset, the fire has died. Only ash remains. A few pieces of charred wood stick out like broken teeth. The priest sprinkles holy water on the ground. Not for her, for them. And then everyone disperses. Just like that. You linger. Because even now, the town doesn't quite feel lighter. The shadows haven't lifted. The milk hasn't unspoiled. No crops have bloomed. And there's still that lingering scent of tar and smoke clinging to your skin. You wander the town that evening. No one mentions her name. The midwife's cottage sits dark, garden untended, windows shuttered. Children dare each other to run up and touch the door. A teenager swears he saw her face in the flames. Another claims to have heard a voice in the smoke. Historians still argue whether Walpurga believed her own story by the end. Whether Federlin was a delusion, a coping mechanism, a metaphor. Or maybe she really did think he existed, because sometimes belief fills the space where reason fails. You walk back to the square. All that's left is a smudge of black on the stone and a thin ring of ash that the wind hasn't quite carried away. Someone has left a bundle of herbs there. Lavender and thyme. Midwife's herbs. You don't know who did it, but it wasn't a child. You hear the faint echo of Walpurga's final words. I am not what you made me. And you wonder if any of them believed her. Or if they just needed her to burn so badly. They stopped caring whether she was real or imagined, guilty or innocent, woman or witch. Just so long as she burned. The next day, the ash is gone, swept up before sunrise, as if the town wanted no trace. The stones in the square gleam slightly darker where the fire licked them clean. A group of men stand idly nearby, talking about the weather. One laughs too loud. The bakery has reopened. Someone's hung garlic over the door, not for flavor, for safety. You find yourself walking toward Walpurga's old cottage, even though you know it's empty. Even though the garden is wild and overgrown and strangely untouched. As if the townspeople fear whatever still lingers in the soil. The door is barred. The windows clouded with dust and age. But something about it still feels alive. You stand at the edge of her garden, watching the herbs sway in the breeze. Foxglove, mugwort, pennyroyal. The kinds of things a midwife needs. The kinds of things that now mark a woman for suspicion. This wasn't just a witch trial, you realize. It was a warning to every woman who dared to know too much. Who dared to live alone. Who dared to work with her hands and touch life and death. In the same day, to every midwife, healer, widow, and wise woman who remembered remedies when the doctor couldn't even remember your name. You think back to Walpurga's face in the courthouse, blank, unblinking, tired. That wasn't madness. It was calculation. She was trying to choose how she'd be remembered. Or maybe how she'd be forgotten. And still, she left traces in the town's silence. In the faint herbal scent that refuses to fade. In the children's stories that begin. Once there was a woman with eyes that killed. You spend the next few hours collecting whispers. One woman swears the priest's chickens stopped laying eggs the morning after the execution. Another claims the river froze at the wrong time. Someone heard a baby cry from inside Walpurga's cottage, even though no child has ever lived there since. You find an old man sitting on the edge of a well, carving a shape into wood, He sees you watching and shrugs. Making charms, he says. Can't be too careful. He says it like a joke, but he doesn't smile. You sit beside him. Ask why Walpurga, of all people. He looks at you for a long time, eyes the color of old ash. She knew things, he says simply. That's all it takes. Historians agree. Sort of. They trace her trial to larger patterns. A wave of witch hunts surged through the Holy Roman Empire in the late 1500s. Economic stress, plague, famine. When people suffer, they want a face to blame. Walpurga just happened to be available, familiar, convenient. But others argue her case stood out because of how detailed her confessions were. How rich her imaginary world became under pressure. The demon Federlin, the talking animals, the off-key lullabies. It wasn't the content, it was the storytelling that stuck. And that's the real curse, isn't it? If you're too quiet, they say you're hiding something. If you're too vivid, they say you're possessed. If you're too good at telling stories, they light a match later. You hear a group of schoolboys daring each other to touch the spot where Walpurga died. One steps forward, giggling until his hand hovers over the stones. He freezes. Something in him shifts. He backs away. You want to tell him something comforting, something simple. Like, there's nothing to fear here. But even you don't quite believe it, because some fear is earned. Not by evil, but by memory, by the weight of what happened. You glance up at the sky. Clouds move fast, pulling shadows over rooftops. A storm might be coming, or it might just be the wind, but it feels like she's still watching. Not angry, not vengeful, just aware. Like she's reminding you, she didn't disappear. Not really. She became something harder to burn. A story. Warning, a woman who died for knowing the wrong things at the wrong time, and for never closing her eyes when men wanted her to. And now, your journey slows. The fire's gone cold. The square is quiet. The last whispers have drifted away on the wind. And Walpurga's name slips gently back beneath the surface of history. Not gone but sleeping. You walk away from her cottage. For the final time, leaving the herbs to sway in silence. The town, for all its noise and cruelty, is just a town again. And though the faces have changed and the years have passed, the shadows remain the same length when the sun tilts just right. As you wander, let the echo of her voice fade. Let the heat of the stake dissolve into soft memory. Let the fear unravel like thread. You did survive this, after all. And though the world outside your window is very different from hers, the stories remain. They ask us to remember not just who was accused, but why. Who was punished for knowing, for healing, for seeing what others wanted. Walpurga Hausmännin was one of many. And though her story ends in ash, it also lingers in the breathless hush before sleep, in the questions we ask when we think no one is listening, in the strength it takes to look straight back at a world that would rather you disappear. So take a breath. Let the hum of your fan wrap around you. Let the darkness become soft, not sharp. There are no more confessions tonight, no more judges, no more fire, only dreams, gentle ones.